What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Conflicts of Interest. This is episode 165. I'm the host, Kyle Anslone. Today I'm joined by Connor Freeman, writer at the Libertarian Institute. Connor, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Kyle. Thanks for having me back on.
Absolutely. I'm very happy to have you on to cover this subject because there is just so much to it with this new agreement between Australia, the UK, and the US that has, a longtime US partner, France, very upset. And of course, France isn't even the main target of this new agreement. China is. So we'll be breaking all that down on today's show. Everybody be sure to share the show. You find it at the Libertarian Institute, libertarianinstitute.org/Kyle for a full archive of the show and the daily news roundup that I write. We post the video version of the show and clips from the show on YouTube, Rumble, and Odysee. You can also find all the content that we put out on Facebook, Twitter, and MeWe. Everybody check out the show notes. We have all the information to donate to the show. You can set up recurring donations on Patreon or Subscribestar. There's also info for crypto if you want to give us some of your very, very lucrative bitcoins. And then another way you could help the show is by buying your CBD products at Paloma Verde. The URL is palomaverdestore.com, or palomaverdecbd.com, excuse me, is the URL now. And they have a great selection of CBD products, even products for your dog. For humans, though, they got soft gels, very high dose extracts, and then also topicals and gummies. The gummies are great if you got a little bit of anxiety. You could eat a couple of those and feel a little bit of the edge taken off. I like the sports cream for my back pain. It works well. It works for a long time, and it doesn't make you smell like old man. So there's a lot of great reasons to check out the products at Paloma Verde. Just be sure that you use the promo code PEACE, PEACE, when you check out. That saves you 25% when you spend $75 or more. All right, Connor, let's get into it and start talking about this new treaty, which I guess AUKUS is the acronyms. AUKUS? Is that how
Yeah,
people are pronouncing this? I don't watch any mainstream media, so I don't know how
same
they're
here.
phrasing it. But that is the new treaty. So tell us what it is, what the details are, and what it means.
Absolutely. So last Wednesday, the US, the UK, and Australia announced this new trilateral military pact, and essentially it's aimed at China pretty clearly. The way Let's see. One of the main things. So it's basically they're going to be sharing all kinds of sensitive technology, a lot of military technology. As Blinken said, they're going to foster deeper integration of security and defense-related science, technology, industrial bases, and supply chains. And the idea is they're going to be working on, cybersecurity, AI, quantum technologies, missile development. And the main thing right now, the first part of it is there's going to be like an 18-month consultancy period over this, but and this is why France is so mad. They are now basically the U.S. and the U.K., most likely the U.S., will be providing these nuclear attack submarines to Australia. And so U.S. officials spoke to CNN, and they said this is an exceedingly rare step due to the sensitivity of the technology, and it's as they said, frankly, an exception to our policy in many respects. They're not going to be armed with nuclear weapons. Although I believe the Australians have already announced that they're buying long-range Tomahawk missiles for the submarines, but nevertheless, this poses great threats to the non-proliferation regime, as the Chinese have been pointing out in different, as well as different regional actors, and also frankly, like concerned citizens and anti-war activists and all kinds of people are pointing it out. Because these American attack submarines run on weapons grade uranium enriched to actually over 90%. So we'll get into that as well. But to start with,
And Connor, just to be clear, that this
yeah,
is would be a technology sharing agreement, so it wouldn't just be the United States building these submarines for Australia, but actually like helping them to produce the submarines and like sharing the technology with them, which I guess is where some of the concern is on the nuclear end, where it's not like you're just providing Australia with the subs and then with the fuel for these subs and leaving all the scientific and technology within the hands and capabilities of the US, but rather sharing that portion of it with Australia, which I'm sure if, like, let's say you're China or Indonesia, which I think is a country that I know less about the geopolitical issues there, but I do know there are some that they might, be concerned then that Australia would have a shorter breakout time to develop their own nuclear weapon or something like that.
Sure. No, absolutely. And so, I mean, the idea is these nuclear attack submarines are going to allow them to be, as opposed to the conventional electric diesel submarines, the conventional submarines that they were going to buy from France initially in this deal that was this contract that was worth more than $60 billion. These nuclear subs are much more capable. They're harder to detect. They're faster. They have longer endurance, longer range, and essentially the upshot is that it'll enable Australia to, do more patrols in the South China Sea and near Taiwan and that sort of thing. So it'll be ramping up tensions greatly in the regional end of that as far as the Asia pivot. And so one of the things that let's see, so yeah, so basically. I mean, so we've already had tensions increasing with these nuclear subs. You've got the U.S. has about 50 nuclear-powered submarines in their fleet. We've got 3 of the most powerful Seawolf-class nuclear subs have been deployed to the Asia-Pacific over the summer. And this is from a great piece at Responsible Statecraft called "Biden Doubles Down on China Confrontation with AUKUS." And so essentially, yeah, I mean, it's being pointed out that this is I mean, they're really targeting China because they're very, let's see, this Oriana Schuyler Mastro is a fellow at Stanford University's Freeman Spogli Institute for International Studies and AEI, told the New York Times that China is very weak in anti-submarine warfare. I know that they've apparently, let's see, I think they mentioned earlier that the Chinese have they have a large diesel electric fleet, but only 6 that are nuclear powered. And much like the French submarines, these run on low enriched uranium. So it's kind of a different situation in that sense. And in fact, this deal that the French have made, that the Australians made with the Americans will make them much more dependent as well on the United States and the UK because they can only acquire that fuel from them, whereas it's more commercially available to get the low enriched uranium. So, and as you point out, yes, I mean, a lot of regional actors are very upset about this. Even Indonesia, who has disputes with China in the South China Sea, as you mentioned earlier, they've expressed concern, they said, over the continuing arms race and power projection in the region. The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman came out and called the move extremely irresponsible and saying it's seriously undermining regional peace and stability. And I thought one of the most interesting things out of this piece was that so last week, Xi Jinping and Biden actually had a phone call that lasted an hour and a half. It was the first time they had spoken in 7 months. And apparently they both agreed on the need to avoid conflict and continue to engage in dialogue. But then less than 24 hours after that call, reports came out quoting Biden officials who were saying that they were holding talks with top Taiwanese officials later in the day. They were considering changing the name of Taiwan's representative office, which, as I say, is a very sensitive issue for Beijing. Lithuania did something similar after Taiwan established an embassy or de facto embassy in Lithuania recently in Vilnius, and they called it the Taiwan Representative Office, as opposed to what the Americans have called our de facto Taiwanese embassy, it's called the Taiwan Economic Cultural. It's Taiwan Economic and Cultural Representative Office. And so they changed the name. But anyway, long story short, both ambassadors were pulled from, the Chinese ambassador was pulled from Lithuania, and the Lithuanians pulled their ambassador from China. And it caused a huge stir. And Sullivan came out along with the State Department spokesman, Ned Price, and they were supporting this. So and now it looks like they're preparing new tariffs on China. And, of course, we have the new meeting with the Quad coming up. So, I mean, this is kind of in the backdrop of everything else that was already going on with China, with the constant military exercises and freedom of navigation operations, and warship transits through the Taiwan Strait. It's now becoming even more, stability is becoming even more tenuous. And we seem to be alienating our European allies at the same time, at least with the French, and the EU are very upset about this as well.
Yeah. Hey, Connor, just real quick. What is like the official title of this? Is it an agreement? I guess it's not. I called it a treaty. I guess it's not actually a treaty, at least not approved by Congress. It doesn't have like a mutual defense or anything like that. It's just like a military pact agreement kind of situation.
Yeah, I've heard it described as a trilateral, like military pact. It's a new alliance, is how I've seen it described. But as far as like the actual formal name, I think they're just essentially calling it AUKUS.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a little opaque, but
Yeah,
yeah, it seems. I mean,
this
that's
seems
that's the
to
way
be
I've heard
one
it
of those
described
things
mostly.
like where Congress could assert itself and say, maybe not so much on just, forming this agreement. Like I thought, Congress was supposed to have some oversight over the executive here. I haven't even seen that like question come up at all. I was just wondering like how they were classifying it to get around that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And yeah, so and a big part of this also is we're going to be moving more and more troops and aircraft into Australia with rotational deployments. We had the Australian Defense Minister meet with Lloyd Austin, and he's saying essentially that let's see. So after the meeting, Peter Dutton, who's their defense minister, the Australians, he said, we've agreed to enhance our force posture cooperation. This will include greater air cooperation through rotational deployments of all types of U.S. military aircraft to Australia. When asked about more troops deploying to Australia, he said, so I do have an aspiration to make sure we can increase the numbers of troops through the rotations. And as Dave Decamp reports here at this piece at antiwar.com, says he also hinted that Australia might host U.S. medium-range missiles that were previously banned under the INF Treaty, which of course Trump withdrew from 2 years ago. Dutton said Australia is open to basing, quote, different ordinances, which he said was in quote, Australia's best interest. So I don't know. I mean, making yourself a major target for Chinese missiles in the event of a war, I don't know if that's necessarily in your best interest, but that's how they're describing it. And we'll get more into the politics of it as well, because it seems like it's a weird situation because beyond like the nuclear issue, or the military issue, it looks like the Americans and the Australians were entirely I guess duplicitous with the French. I mean, the French have described this as a stab in the back. The French have pulled their ambassadors from both America and Australia. They've postponed upcoming talks with the UK. They're blocking talks